your eyes for a moment. I want you to think about the person you've been waking up as every single morning for the last 5, 10, or 20 years. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phone to check their texts, their emails, social media. In that one act, they are connecting to every problem, every person, and every past mistake in their life. By the time they get out of bed, they are already thinking in the past. If you want to change your life, you have to understand that your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. To create a new life, you must literally become someone else. The moment your eyes flutter open in the morning, before you have even fully processed the light coming through the window or the sound of the world waking up, you are at a crossroads. For the vast majority of people, transition from sleep to wakefulness is not an opening into a new day, but a re-entry into an old, predictable past. Think about the very first thing you do. Before you even get out of bed, your brain begins to scan for your problems. Problems that actually memories that are etched into your brain, and each one of those memories is connected to a specific person, a certain place, a difficult situation, or a stressful time in your life. The moment you start thinking about those problems, you are no longer in the present moment, you are living in the past. Your brain is a record of everything you have already experienced. So by starting your day with those thoughts, you are essentially booting up an old operating system. Comes the physical ritual. You reach for your cell phone. In that one movement, you're searching for a hit of dopamine or a reason to feel something familiar. You check your texts, your emails, your social media, and the news. Now, you are connected to every person, every obligation you have and every tragedy in the world. Within 60 seconds of waking up, you have successfully plugged yourself back into the matrix of your old life. You have remembered who you are supposed to be based on your bank account, your job title, and your relationships. You have successfully reaffirmed your identity as a limited being. This is what it means to be a program. People are essentially living in a state where their body is on autopilot, following a routine that has been practiced so many times that the body now knows how to be the person better than the conscious mind does. Interrupt the program means to consciously step in and break this cycle of automaticity. It requires you to realize that if you aren't being defined by a vision of the future, then you are left with the memories of the past. Have a plan for your morning that involves becoming a new version of yourself. You will default to the version that is most convenient, the one that has been conditioned by years of repetitive thinking. Interrupting the program is an act of rebellion against your own biology. It is the moment you decide that you are no longer going to let your environment control how you think and feel. When you stay in bed for those extra few minutes and refuse to grab your phone, you are asserting dominance over your impulses. You are telling your body that it is no longer the master, but the servant to your conscious will. The struggle is real because your body is addicted to the chemical rush of your stress. When you think about a problem, you produce the same chemicals in your brain as if the problem were happening right then and there. Your body doesn't know the difference between the actual event and the thought of the event. So if you wake up and think about a stressful meeting, your body in a state of emergency before your feet have even touched the floor. Over time, you become addicted to these stress hormones. You use your problems to reaffirm your identity. To interrupt the program is to go through a sort of withdrawal. Uncomfortable feeling you get when you try to sit still and your brain starts screaming at you to check your messages or get up and make coffee. That restlessness is the old program trying to regain control. When you consciously choose to interrupt this flow, you are creating a gap in the predictable timeline of your life. In that gap, there is room for something new to emerge. If you can stop the momentum of the old self, you give yourself the opportunity to ask a very powerful question. Who do I actually want to be today? Most people never get to this question because they are too busy reacting to the world around them. They are in a constant state of survival, and in survival, room for creation. By stopping the habitual reach for the phone and the immediate dive into the past, you are moving from a state of survival into a state of creation. You are reclaiming your energy from the people and things that usually drain it. You are deciding that your internal state is more important than the external world. This interruption is the essential first step because you cannot build a new house on top of a crumbling foundation. You have to clear the site first. You have to stop the old construction. You have to become aware of the thoughts you've been thinking that you weren't even aware were thoughts, the ones that have become so familiar they feel like the truth. When you interrupt the program, You are finally waking up to the fact that you have been sleepwalking through your own life. And in that moment of awareness, you regain the power to change everything. The concept of mental rehearsal is not merely a psychological trick or a simple visualization exercise. It is a profound biological intervention that allows you to literally outsmart your own brain. To understand the power of this practice, you have to realize that the brain is a giant map of everything you have ever learned and experienced up to this point in your life. It is an archive of the past. Every time you think a familiar thought or perform a routine action, you are firing and wiring a specific set of neurons that reinforce that archive. However, incredible discovery in modern neuroscience is that the brain cannot distinguish between a real life experience and an experience you create through the power of your own thought and focused imagination. When you sit down in a quiet space, close your eyes, begin to mentally rehearse a new way of being, you are beginning to rewire your entire neurological system from the inside out. Consider what happens when you decide to rehearse a specific version of your future self. Perhaps a version that is confident, calm, unshakable. Most people wait for a successful event to happen in their external world before they allow themselves to feel confident. They are waiting for the world to change so they can feel a certain way. But when you engage in the architecture of the mind, reverse that flow. As you sit there and mentally rehearse how you are going to act in a challenging meeting, how you are going to speak to your partner, or how you are going to move through your day with grace, you are firing those neurons in a new sequence. If you are truly present and your focus is laser sharp, you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. You are essentially priming your brain to recognize a new reality before it has manifested in physical form. You are moving from a state of being a record of the past to becoming a map of the future. The process requires a level of intensity that goes beyond mere daydreaming. Daydreaming is passive, mental rehearsal is active and intentional. It requires you to involve every sense. You have to see the environment in your mind's eye, hear the sounds of the room, feel the weight of your body as you move with newfound confidence. And most importantly, you have to embrace the intention of the action. If you do this repeatedly, the hardware eventually becomes a software program. The brain starts to look like the experience has already happened. Research has shown that people who mentally rehearse finger exercises or piano scales without ever touching a physical object can actually change the motor cortex of their brain and increase their physical strength or skill level. Our bodies change because their brains change first. This is the power you have over your own life. You are not a victim of your genes or your environment. You are the architect of your own neurological landscape. When you get up from this mental rehearsal, be vigilant. The goal is to ensure that the hardware you just installed doesn't get overwritten by your old habits the moment you open your eyes. The rehearsal serves as a blueprint. If you spend 30 minutes in the morning imagining a life of abundance, and then spend the next 16 hours complaining about your bills and feeling lack, you have just deleted the new program. The practice is about maintaining that new neurological state even when the environment hasn't changed yet. It is about being so convinced by the inner vision that the outer world starts to feel like the illusion. You are training your brain to stay focused on a vision that is greater than your current circumstances. This is how leaders, athletes, and visionaries have always operated. They saw the goal so clearly in their mind, and they rehearsed the steps so many times that by the time they reached the actual moment of performance, their body followed their brain automatically. There was no hesitation because the brain had already traveled that path 1,000 times. You are essentially taking your brain out of the past and placing it into the future. Oh. By doing this, you are no longer waiting for your life to change so you can feel better. You are changing your brain so your life has no choice but to follow. People live in a state of constant reaction to their surroundings. They see a person they don't like, and they feel an emotion they don't like, and their brain fires in a way that confirms they are a victim. But if you have mentally rehearsed being at peace, even in the presence of that person, you have created a new neurological circuit. When you encounter that person in the physical world, your brain now has a choice. It can go down the old dusty path of anger, or it can take the new, shiny highway of peace that you have been building in your mind. The more you rehearse, the more that new highway becomes the path of least resistance. You are literally evolving your brain beyond its previous limitations. You are teaching your nervous system to exist in a reality that you haven't even stepped into yet. This is the work of a creator, to stay so focused on the internal rehearsal that the external world begins to mirror the change you have already made within. You are not just thinking about a new life, You are physically and neurologically becoming the person who is capable of living it. The concept of the elevated emotion is perhaps the most misunderstood yet vital component of transforming your personal reality. To truly change, you have to understand a fundamental law of how the body and mind interact. The brain is the seat of the conscious mind, but the body is the subconscious mind. Not know the difference between an actual experience that creates an emotion and an emotion you fabricate by thought alone. Most of us have been conditioned by a 19th century model of cause and effect. Dictates that we need something outside of us to change how we feel inside of us. We wait for the wealth to feel abundant. We wait for the new relationship to feel loved. And we wait for the healing to feel whole. This is a victimized way of living because it means we are dependent on the external environment to regulate our internal state. If the environment is good, we feel good. If the environment is bad, we feel bad. The secret to shifting your destiny lies in reversing this equation. You must learn to signal the body emotionally before the actual event has occurred. This is what it means to embrace an elevated emotion. When you sit down to create a new future, you cannot bring the old emotions of the past, like guilt, shame, judgment, or frustration, into that new vision. Those emotions carry a low frequency and are rooted in survival. They keep you anchored to the very life you are trying to leave behind. Instead, practice reaching for feelings like gratitude, awe, inspiration, and joy. Why gratitude? Because gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. In your life, you usually say thank you after something favorable has happened. Therefore, when you feel gratitude, your body is literally being signaled that the event has already occurred. If you can maintain a state of gratitude, your body begins to believe it is in the future reality in the present moment. You are moving out of the state of wanting, which is a state of lack, and into a state of having. You are no longer asking for a miracle. You are vibrating at the frequency where miracles exist. This is the bridge between your current state and your desired life. The emotional charge that gives the thought of your future the power to manifest. Most people struggle with this because they are addicted to the chemistry of their own suffering. They have spent years rehearsing fear or anxiety. Body has become a storehouse for those chemicals. When you try to feel joy or abundance without a reason, your body will rebel. Tell you that this feels fake or that you are delusional. But you must realize that the body is just a creature of habit. It is simply protesting the loss of its familiar chemical fix. If you can persist and move past that resistance, you begin to teach the body a new emotional language. You are essentially reconditioning the body to a new mind. This is a physical process as much as a mental one. When you sustain an elevated emotion, you begin to change your gene expression. You start to down-regulate the genes for stress and disease and up-regulate the genes for growth and repair. You're becoming a different person on a cellular level because you have decided to live in an elevated state regardless of what is happening in the world around you. This practice requires you to be greater than your body and greater than your environment. It means that when you open your eyes and see the same old house, the same old car, and the same old bank account, you don't let those sights take you out of the emotional state you just created. If you allow the external world to determine how you feel, you are back in the old program. But if you can hold that elevated emotion of joy or gratitude while you walk through your day, you are moving through the world as a creator. You are an energetic match for a new experience. Think about it. If you are walking around in a state of pure gratitude and inspiration, you are going to make different choices. You are going to see opportunities you were blind to before, and you are going to project an energy that draws people and circumstances to you. Are no longer chasing your life. Your life is being pulled toward you because of the magnetic field you are generating. The elevated emotion is the fuel. Without it, your thoughts are just empty wishes. With it, your thoughts become a command to the universe. You are telling the field that you are ready, not because you are begging, but because you already feel the fulfillment of the dream. This is how you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. By living in the future emotion today, so intensely that your body is convinced the future is now, breaking the habit of being yourself is perhaps the most difficult and yet the most rewarding feat any human being can undertake, because it requires you to cross the river of change. People spending their entire lives standing on one side of that river, looking at the other side where their dreams, their health, and their freedom reside, but they are terrified to step into the water. To break the habit of being yourself, you have to realize that you have become a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, and unconscious attitudes that have become so ingrained that they function like a computer program. You wake up and you think the same thoughts lead to the same choices, which create the same behaviors, which produce the same experiences, which ultimately generate the same emotions. Those emotions then drive your thoughts again, and around you go in a closed loop of the known. Cycle creates a very specific biological signature. Your body becomes comfortable in its own suffering, its own limitation, and its own mediocrity. It loves the familiar, even if the familiar is painful, because at least the familiar is safe. To change is to leave the safety of the known and step into the void of the unknown. The moment you decide to truly change, you are going to feel a tremendous amount of internal resistance. This is because your body has been the mind for so long. It has been the one in charge of your moods and your energy. When you decide to break the habit, when you decide you are no longer going to complain or feel sorry for yourself or get angry at the same person, the body starts signaling the brain. It says, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years. Why are you stopping now? It starts sending messages to your mind to get you to return to the old state. It says, start tomorrow. You're too tired. This doesn't feel right. You're never going to change anyway. These are the voices of the old self trying to maintain its territory. If you listen to those thoughts as if they are the truth, you will get right back into the same routine. If you can observe those thoughts and realize they are just the old program trying to survive, you begin to take your power back. Breaking the habit means you must be more conscious than you are unconscious. You have to be so aware of your automatic habits that you don't let them go unnoticed by your conscious mind. The space between the old self and the new self is what I call the generative void, a place of absolute nothingness where the old identity has died, but the new identity has not yet been born. This is the place where most people fail because they mistake this emptiness for something being wrong. They feel lost, they feel uncomfortable, feel like they don't know who they are anymore. And they're right, they don't. But that is exactly where you want to be. If you know who you are the old you. If you are in the unknown, that is the only place where creation can happen. You cannot create anything new from the known. To stay in that void without running back to the familiar comfort of your old problems is the ultimate act of will. It is where you begin to prune the old neurological connections and allow new ones to sprout. You are literally starving the old self of the emotional attention it craves. Every time you catch yourself falling into an old habit and you stop and return to the present moment, you are breaking the addiction to the old self. Process is about moving from a state of being to a state of becoming. It requires you to be a scientist of your own life. You have to look at your personality, which is made up of how you think, act, and feel, decide which parts of that personality you want to take into your future and which parts you want to leave. People try to create a new life with the same old personality, and it never works. You can't have a new life and be the same person. You have to lose your mind to create a new one. You have to be willing to let go of the stories you tell yourself about why you are the way you are. You have to let go of your past as a way to justify your current state of being. Break the habit of being yourself. You are no longer defined by your history. You are no longer a victim of your biology or your upbringing. You are an intentional being who is choosing to move toward a vision. This transition is not a one-time event, moment, but moment decision. It happens every time you choose a thought of possibility over a thought of lack. It happens every time you choose to be kind when you feel like being judgmental. Each time you do this, are weakening the old self and strengthening the new self. You are essentially teaching your body that it is no longer the master, and you are reclaiming your seat as the sovereign creator of your own experience. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure, the feeling of your old self dissolving. It is the sound of the old program breaking down. If you can stay in that fire, you will be forged into someone entirely new. Surrendering how is perhaps the most challenging aspect of this entire process, because it requires you to give up the one thing your ego clings to most, the illusion of control. We've been conditioned by a materialistic world to believe that if we want something, we must work harder, push faster, and manipulate every variable in our environment to make it happen. We are taught to obsess over the logistics, the timing, specific sequence of events that will lead to our desired outcome. But the moment you try to figure out exactly how your life is going to change, you have walked right back into the old version of yourself. You are trying to predict the future based on the limited knowledge of your past. The old self only knows what it has already experienced, and therefore, it can only project possibilities that are already known. Looking for a transformation that is truly miraculous, something that exceeds your current imagination, you cannot find it through the lens of the known. You have to step into the unknown, and the unknown is the realm of all possibilities. Surrender the how means that you take responsibility for the what and the feel while leaving the how to a greater intelligence. Your job is to get very clear on the intention of what you want to create and to marry that intention with elevated emotion that signals your body has already occurred. Once you've set that energetic frequency, you must let go. You are constantly checking your watch or looking around every corner to see if your dream has arrived yet. You are essentially telling the universe that you don't have it. You are back in a state of lack, and lack only produces more lack. Surrendering is not an act of weakness or passivity. It is an act of supreme trust. It is the realization that there is a field of information, a quantum field, that is far more capable of organizing the details of your life than your conscious mind could ever be. When you try to control the how, you are actually getting in the way. You are narrowing the infinite possibilities down to the one or two paths your ego can perceive. By surrendering, you open up thousands of potential pathways for your new reality to find you. Think about the last time something truly wonderful and unexpected happened in your life. Did you plan every microsecond of it? Probably not. It likely came out of the blue. A chance encounter or a random phone call. That is the field working in your favor. When you are in a state of surrender, you are in a state of grace. You are no longer white knuckling your way through life, trying to force doors open that are meant to stay closed. Instead, you are becoming a magnet. You stay focused on the feeling of your future being a present reality, and you allow the universe to orchestrate the synchronicities. Requires a level of patience that most people find uncomfortable because the analytical mind hates the unknown. The analytical mind wants to solve the puzzle, but the puzzle of a new life cannot be solved with the pieces of the old one. You have to be willing to be surprised. You have to be willing to admit that you don't know where the money is coming from or how the healing will happen or who the new person will be. You just have to know with absolute certainty the frequency you are emitting is drawing it to you. Surrendering is also about releasing the emotional attachment to the outcome. When you are truly one with your vision, you no longer feel the desperate need for it to happen. This sounds like a paradox. It is the truth of creation. If you feel the fulfillment of your dream in your heart right now, you aren't in a hurry for it to show up in the physical world because you already possess the emotional reward. The person who feels empty, who is desperate for the how to work out, when you are full of the emotion of your future, you can relax. You can walk through your day with a sense of ease, knowing that the how is being taken care of by a power that knows how to turn a single cell into a human being and how to keep the planets in orbit. That same intelligence is the one that will bring your new life to your doorstep. Your only task is to remain an energetic match for that life. Every time you start to worry or doubt, you are grabbing the steering wheel back from the universe. You are saying, I don't trust the field, I only trust my limited self. In those moments, you have to stop, breathe, and surrender again. You have to give it up to the divine over and over until your trust becomes more powerful than your fear. This is where the struggle ends and the adventure begins. You are moving from the world of doing into the world of being. And in that state of being, you are finally free to receive the life you have been dreaming of. The power of observation is the ultimate tool of the conscious creator because it allows you to step out of the movie of your life and become the director. People are so deeply immersed in their own personal drama that they cannot see the patterns that are keeping them enslaved to their past. They believe that their thoughts are the absolute truth and that their feelings are a reliable compass for reality. When you begin the practice of objective observation, you realize that most of your thoughts are just old recordings playing on a loop, and your feelings are merely the chemical baggage of yesterday's experiences. To observe yourself is to develop a level of self-awareness where you can watch your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions as if they belong to someone else. This creates a space between your conscious mind and your programmed identity. Space lies your freedom. If you can catch yourself in the middle of a judgmental thought, or notice the moment your chest starts to tighten with the familiar spark of anxiety, you are no longer the victim of that program. You are the observer of it. Moment you observe a program, you are no longer the program itself. You are the consciousness that is witnessing the program, which means you now have the power to change it. This requires a relentless, almost clinical level of honesty with yourself. You have to become a scientist studying your own behavior. Throughout the day, you must ask yourself, is this thought helping me build my future, or is it anchoring me to my past? When you are sitting in traffic and you feel that surge of frustration, Observe the body's craving for that stress chemical. Can you see how the ego wants to react and complain because it feels familiar? Most people just go along with the reaction, and in doing so, they strengthen the habit. But the observer says, I see you, self. I see that you want to be angry right now because that's how we've always handled this. But today, I am choosing something else. This is the moment you say, change, aloud or in your mind. By doing this, you are interrupting the firing of those old neural pathways. You are refusing to give your energy to the old personality. The more you observe yourself, the more you realize how much of your life has been spent on autopilot. You see the way you slouch when you feel insecure, the way you use certain words to diminish your own power, and the way you seek validation from people who don't even matter to you. The act of observation actually changes the thing being observed, is a fundamental principle of quantum physics. In the quantum world, the observer affects the behavior of subatomic particles just by paying attention to them. Your life works the same way. When you start being the unconscious actor and start being the conscious observer, you begin to collapse new possibilities into your reality. You are no longer just a bundle of conditioned responses. You are a focused presence. This awareness must be constant. Enough to be aware for 10 minutes during a morning practice and then spend the rest of the day in a trance of reactivity. You have to carry the light of awareness into every interaction. You have to observe yourself while you're talking to your boss. While you're eating your lunch and while you're scrolling through your phone, you are looking for the leaks in your energy. Every time you react to the external world with an old emotion, you are leaking energy back into the old life. Every time you observe the impulse to react and you choose to remain in a state of balance instead, you are reclaiming that energy for your new future. This process can be uncomfortable because you will start to see things about yourself that you don't like. See your own pettiness, your own fears, and your own limitations. But you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. The observer doesn't judge, it just notices. Judgment is just another program of the old self. If you judge yourself for being angry, you are just adding more layers to the old identity. The goal is to observe with a sense of curiosity, like a scientist looking at a specimen under a microscope. Oh, look at that, I'm feeling lack again. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why my body thinks it needs to feel that right now. When you take the judgment out of it, the emotion loses its power over you. You are essentially de-identifying from your personality. You are realizing that you are the one who is aware of the personality itself. This distinction is where true transformation begins. It allows you to stay steady when the world around you is chaotic. It allows you to remain in your heart when your brain is trying to drag you back into your head. Mastering the power of observation, you are no longer a leaf being blown about by the winds of circumstance. You become the mountain, stable, unmoving, and fully present. You are finally in the position to decide with total clarity thoughts and feelings are worthy of your future and which ones belong in the graveyard of your past. Living in the future now is the final and most profound step in the evolution of the human spirit. It requires you to maintain a state of being that is entirely independent of your current environment. This is where the work truly becomes a masterpiece of personal transformation. People wait for their external world to change before they allow themselves to feel the emotions of success, health, or love. They believe that they are victims of their circumstances, and that if their circumstances improved, they would finally be happy. Truth of the matter is that you cannot wait for the world to change how you feel. You have to change how you feel to change the world. Living in the future now means that when you open your eyes from your internal work, be a different person than the one who sat down. You must walk, talk, act, and breathe as if your prayers have already been answered and your dreams have already manifested in the physical realm. It is not about pretending or faking it until you make it, which is a shallow intellectual exercise. This is about a deep, biological, energetic shift where your body is so convinced by the internal signal you are sending it that it no longer feels the need to look for the result in the outside world. When you are truly living in the future now, you are in a state of absolute gratitude. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. In our standard model of reality, we say thank you after we receive something. Therefore, when you are in a state of gratitude, you are signaling to every cell in your body and to the very fabric of the quantum field that the event has already occurred. You aren't looking for your wealth because you already feel abundant. You aren't looking for your healing because you already feel whole. You aren't looking for your partner because you already feel loved. This state of being is what actually draws the experience to you. The moment you start looking for it or wondering when it will show up, you are signaling to the universe that you don't have it. You have just returned to the old frequency of lack. To live in the future now is to be so full of the emotion of your destination that you are no longer in a hurry for it to arrive. You are already there emotionally. The body is the subconscious mind. It believes it is in that new reality 24 hours a day. This is how you begin to see synchronicities and coincidences that are so improbable they can only be described as a reflection of your internal change. Challenge in the fact that your senses will try to lie to you. Your eyes will tell you that you are still in the same house, and your bank statement will tell you that you are still in the same financial position. You believe your senses more than you believe your vision. You will fall back into the old reality. You have to be able to look at the known world and remain unmoved by it. Be able to hold on to the known future with such clarity and such emotional intensity that it becomes more real to you than your current surroundings. This is the definition of faith. The ability to believe in reality that is not yet perceived by the senses, but is felt so strongly in the heart that it cannot be denied. When you move through your day with this level of conviction, you start to make different choices. You carry yourself with a different posture. You speak with a different tone of voice. You are no longer reacting to the world from your past conditioning. You are responding to the world from your future potential. You have essentially moved your identity from the person who is trying to get somewhere to the person who has already arrived. As you sustain this state, the old world begins to fall away because you are no longer feeding it with your attention or your energy. Stop being an energetic match for your old problems. Simultaneously, the new world begins to materialize around you. People will notice a change in your energy. Opportunities that were once invisible will suddenly become obvious. Find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person, or stumbling upon the right information. These are not accidents. They are the result of you finally aligning your internal frequency with the life you desire. You are no longer chasing your life. Your life is being pulled toward you by the magnetic power of your state of being. The more you can inhabit this future version of yourself in the present moment, the faster the walls between your imagination and your reality will dissolve. You become the living proof that we are not limited by our past or our genetics. You show the world that a single human being, through the power of a changed mind and an elevated heart, command the elements of their life to rearrange themselves. This is the ultimate freedom to know that you are the creator of your reality, and that by simply changing who you are being right now, you are directing the course of your entire destiny. You are the creator of your life, not the victim of it. When you change your energy, you change your life.